Welcome to the Nairn County podcast, which is brought to you in association with our digital partner Ziyen Energy, the leading blockchain software and digitalisation experts leading the field in emerging technologies related to oil and gas tokenisation. For more, go to ziyen.com. So Richard, we've talked about your debut playing under the great Eric Geddes and your relationship with Kenny McKenzie. What games stand out for you in that early season?
Well, my very first full season after Kenny had gone to Cali, I had mixed feelings with Kenny going to Cali because he was obviously my mentor, my friend. However, I was delighted, obviously, to be the first team goalie at 16. But my first real recollection was playing the first time I played against Kenny, which was a games night against Cali, and I was playing against Kenny, Davey and Chicky because they were both with Cali as well at the time. And I remember as a 16-year-old, I felt quite on my toes. I was feeling quite cocky, confident and all that. I had no real nerves in those days, and I felt really on my toes that game. And I think I was about 15 minutes into the game, huge crowd of course at games night, well over 1,000. And I saw Davey get the ball about 30 yards out, sidestep a couple of the defenders, and I saw him lining up a shot. I was really on my toes and I said, come on, and I'm ready for it. And he hit it. Well, before I could get my hand above my head, it had hit the bar and landed about the halfway line. I just could not believe the strength of his shot. Oh, wow. And after that I was saying, no, don't let him hit the ball. Don't let him hit the ball, block him for goodness sake. But I couldn't believe the power of that shot. So from being a very cocky young goalkeeper, realism soon crept in, I can tell you.
So we mentioned that you mentioned that the crowds over 1,000, and when we certainly when we look at games today, you see the boys on the hill and the folk in what's now the Davy Johnson enclosure.
Oh yes.
Oh, tell us a bit about the fans in those days, how they supported the team, how they brought the team on. Yeah. Did they have the banners and rattles and things like that?
Oh, the banners, rattles, the old rattles, you name it, and they were a phenomenal support, and that was the same throughout my career with Nairn. The supporters were just tremendous. You know, they were your 12th man. I know it's a old cliche, but they were the 12th man for the team, and it was just unreal. We got to know a lot of them too. I even remember one game in later years when Ian Gibson was playing, and we'll maybe mention Ian a wee bit later.
Certainly.
But I remember Ian, because of his skill, kept getting fouled, and I remember one of the crowd ran onto the field to remonstrate with the ref, and it was none other than Ian's dad, Cameron Gibson.
The Reverend Cameron Gibson.
Yes, the Reverend Cameron Gibson ran onto the field to remonstrate with the ref because of the treatment his son had been getting. Oh, for heaven's sake. But no, that season, my first season in particular, was fantastic. I loved it. And playing with Nairn as a 16-year-old, I was still playing for the schools in the morning, of course. And I remember one time we were playing in Fraserburgh, and when I was in 5th year in academy that time, and I actually played in the left wing for the academy in the morning.
In the left wing?
In the left wing.
Seriously?
And I remember going to Milnes High against Fochabers in the morning, and funnily enough, it was the only time I ever did it. I scored a hat-trick in a 4-1 win. My third goal came from a beautiful through ball by my teammate Stan Brown.
Oh, good heavens.
And I was running in on the goalie, and he decided, rather than tackle me, he jumped out of the way.
Your reputation precedes you.
Yes, and that's what got me my hat-trick. But anyway, after that match, I had a bag of chips, and the Nairn County bus picked me up on the way to Fraserburgh.
Did you tell Alec that you scored a hat-trick?
I probably would have, because that was a rare thing. So we played in Fraserburgh. But that's what I remember about the first season. Also, we got to the qualifying cup final, and in those days it was a two-leg affair at home, and it actually happened 9 days before the first match. I dislocated my wee finger at training, and the doctor said, you'll be out for 3 weeks. And I said, no way, I'm going to play. I knew I'd miss the Saturday match, but I said, no, I'm definitely playing the cup final. And in the end, the doctor agreed to it, and he strapped my 2 fingers together, and I still played in the cup final. We won the first game against Elgin City, who were the big team at the time, 1-0. And the second leg, they beat us 1-0. And then the third game, they won the toss for the venue, so we played the third game at Barrabriggs, and they absolutely swamped us 6-1. You know, so it was the best team won, as simple as that. You know, but qualifying cup final, got my first medal. Again, that's playing for Nairn County. So
building and learning all the time.
Oh,
though, isn't it?
You certainly learn, and of course, going back to school on the Monday after that game. Oh, the sticker got 6 goals, and they were saying, "Oh." I says, how did you let in 6 goals? I said, oh, actually, it was really easy. You know, but no, that first season was brilliant. You know?
As I say, you're one of the goalkeepers union that you say, I didn't let in 10, I let in 6.
Well,
it would have been 10 if it hadn't been for me.
Well, I did save a penalty, fun enough, that day as well, but that's by the by. We were thoroughly beaten 6-1. Simple as that.
You mentioned Barrabriggs, some great grounds and great pitches for Highland League football. What were some of the grounds that you particularly looked forward to going to, or you enjoyed playing on?
Probably Barrabriggs was one I really liked, probably most of all, because I'd played there in schools football as well. I also loved Cally Park, the old Telford Street Park, because it gave a real professional feel to it, with a big stand and all that. And I thought I liked Mossett Park, apart from the way they put gravel in the goalmouth. And when it was wet, my knees were always cut to ribbons by the end of the game. But I loved the turf at Banff, Devonville, Princess Royal Park. In fact, it was so soft. You used to dive in it, and it used to almost bounce up off it again onto your feet. I know. There was no. I think maybe Clark Park was one ground I didn't really enjoy playing in, for the simple reason of it's the way the stand was at an angle away from it, and it was a sort of surreal sort of feel to it. You know, but I just enjoyed playing for Nairn County. It didn't matter where I was playing, to be honest. You know.
So let's move on a step then. That's your first seasons for Nairn under Eric. How many seasons did you play under Eric?
Well, under Eric, it was about 3.5 seasons played under Eric, and then 4 under Innes.
And Eric, of course, took his illness.
Yes.
And
in fact, we were doing 4.5 under Eric, because I'm thinking of the year before I started playing as well, and I was training.
So, tell us about when you first encountered Denis McDonald.
Well, funnily enough, it was with schools football, because Innes used to take the select games and all that. So, and I knew of him for Elgin City. He was a legend with Elgin City with their Scottish Cup runs of the 60s.
Quarterfinals.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, incredible. And the schools football, I remember him well from that as well. But the big shock came in 73, 74 was Innes's first season, and it was 73 that we heard that Innes MacDonald and George Welsh had signed for Nairn.
They came as a pair, don't they?
Yes, they came as a pair. Now, Innes I knew, George, I hadn't a clue about George. I didn't realise that he was the actual trainer for Elgin City either. So that was a wow moment, and I think that was all down to Martin Robertson and the committee who talked with Innes, and he had a chat with Innes, and Innes was, I think he was fed up of being, I suppose, ignored at Barrabriggs. He was a great coach, yet the committee never included him in their decisions or anything. So with Nairn, he was getting full autonomy on the selection of running the team, etc. The Nairn committee, who were brilliant at the time, in particular, were happy to let him just do his own thing and just support him as best they could. They couldn't support him with money because we didn't have money, so Innes had to rely on signing good welfare league players, and players he knew from schools football, like the Robertson twins, like Dougie McEldowie. He knew Dougie, and Alec Gordon. He knew that they would slot into the Nairn County way of things, and just become a really good team member.
Did Innes have a system that he played, or did he select players based on the individual characteristics?
Well, no, I think Innes always had a system of play, I think, and I think he knew where everyone should play. and he didn't really mess about with that too much. You know, obviously sometimes you had to play someone out of position, but Innes would sign a midfield player for a midfield position, a forward for etc., a defender when he needed a defender. Whereas in the past, folk have said, right, we'll just play him up front or whatever. No, Innes was, I mean, he was a very clever, shrewd manager, you know, and him and George complemented each other.
Two different personalities, I understand.
Absolutely. Innes was obviously a great coach, and Innes knew about players' minds, which I suppose in those days wasn't really talked about. The mental aspect of the game, about the player's mentality when he went onto that field. Whereas George was just a good, honest, hard trainer. And George would put you through the mill. Of course, being an ex-army PTI, in fact, he trained the army PTIs. He was that good for a wee man like George, and he really put us through the paces. And we couldn't believe that a wee man like George could have such an effect on us. But we loved him. We absolutely loved wee George. He was just such a lovely, lovely guy. And he still is to this day.
So and again, he hasn't changed a bit.
No, he's still as modest as ever. You know.
You mentioned the mental side of the game, and this is hold on that. You've told me in the past about the importance of confidence in goalkeepers and how you can't go into the park doubting yourself.
Without a doubt.
You told me a story about Innes and the mental side and boosting your self-belief.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing I would say about Innes was early in that first season, and this is not so much to do with me as to the team. We played at Inverness, played at Kingsmills against Inverness Thistle, and we lost 3-1. Now, the season before we finished second bottom of the league, and they had absolutely thrashed us both times. Thistle were the top team at the time. And we came off the field feeling really chuffed with ourselves. 3-1, this is great. Well, if we did, Innes just tore into us, and he says, you've got a losing mentality. Look at you, you'd have thought you'd won a cup, he said. You must not have that mentality. You have to win every game you play. And we were totally shocked at the end of it. I think that was when we realised what Innes was like. He certainly demanded a lot, but he knew how to get it. And going back to myself, I think it was the start of the second season. I had a very good first season with Innes. Start of the second season, my game went through a poor patch where my confidence was dipping. I'd made a couple of errors, and I was suffering in silence. I didn't really know what to do to get out of it. And one training session.
How old were you at that point?
I would have been about 19, I think.
Still a young
guy, yeah.
Scheme of things.
19. Innes said at one session, right, Richard, you're going in goals. I'm going to have a wee exercise with you now. I'm going to put Alec Gordon against you, Brian Darby as your defender, and Stan Brown, well, the best crosser of the ball in the business, Stan Brown to cross the ball in, and I want you to make a decision to come out and claim that ball when you think it's right.
Sure.
So I says, okay, and so I went out, and the balls came across, and I didn't realise at the time, but I think there was a hidden agenda there. And when I was going up for it, Alec would put a wee bit of a shoulder into me, and caused me a wee bit of grief. And if I dropped the ball, Innes was shouting at me, and I was saying, I was fouled, Innes.
Yeah.
And then another one came about 12 yards out, and I says, well, that's too far out for a goalie. You should have been out there, you know. And then this went on for about 5 minutes, and I was getting quite riled, which is not like me at all. And eventually I really lost it.
Yeah.
And Innes, I shouted at Innes, I just said, that's really unfair, that wasn't. And Innes said, one more word of you, and you're in that dressing room, son.
Uh-huh.
So I kept my mouth shut. I couldn't look Innes in the face.
Yeah.
And then the Saturday game, we were at home against Keith, I remember, and I still couldn't look at him in the face. I was really angry. I thought, how unfair was that? And I went in the field and I said, I'm going to show him. And I took my aggression out in the field. I had a fantastic game. Really didn't put a foot wrong. I felt back to my old self. And coming off the park, Innes was waiting for me at the tunnel with his hand out.
Yes.
And I saw the smirk on his face, and I just looked at him. I says, you knew exactly what you were doing on Thursday night. And he said, well played, son, he says. And went off.
And people think that the mental side of the game was a new thing, you know.
And after that, he taught me so much in that spell, and he knew exactly what he was doing, you know, and you know, that, you know, my opinion of him just got sky high after that, you know.
So tell us about how the team got on in those initial seasons under Innes, and how the team grew and was built.
Well, Innes, one thing, as I said, Innes was good at the mental side. He was also very good at the social side of things. Immediately he arranged that we have a little kitty, so like the 50 pence. I mean, in those days that was a lot of money. You know, you'd buy a pint with that.
There you go.
Or two. 50 pence of our wages went into a wee kitty, and every month we used to have a get together, usually at the Nairn, which was run by Ian Stephen of Inverness Thistle at the time. So, and every month, and the non-Nairn players used to stay with us. So, like, if my mother used to put up a couple of players, Harry used to put up a couple of players and all that, you know, and the Stan used to put up a couple of players as well. So the camaraderie and all that was brilliant. I even remember going to the old Nairn go-kart track for a wee spot on a Sunday morning after one of these sessions, you know, and it was all team building. It was all morale, and we all got on so well together, and we, you know, there was no cliques and we were all paid the same wages, of course, which does help. You know, and we, you know, everyone, and he just fostered that feeling, that team spirit, and 3 years later, that was the most important thing for us, without a doubt.
So it just shows you. Yep. And you mentioned some of the names already that in this one, like Alec Gordon and Doug McEldowie. Tell us how important those boys were coming in. Perhaps some of the other names that added to that team spirit. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I've always said you can't sort of pick out anyone in that team. We're such a solid unit.
You still are. I've seen you together.
Yes, I know. These guys just gelled together. We, I think maybe the one that I think of most, possibly, I'm saying no singling out, but I'm going to mention someone here, is Stan Brown. Stan,
tremendous, but
you know, he was so underrated. It was untrue. Great crosser of a ball. If any outfield player was in trouble, Stan would be there, helping them out, shouting, helping them out. Stan would give 100%. And I remember one game, I think it was at the end of the second season, Innes, and we went to Cally Park in a cup replay to play against Inverness Thistle, the great Thistle team, and we beat them 4-0 that night. We really thumped them. And I remember Innes, who wasn't really great with compliments. Innes would say, well done, that's it, or individual compliments. I remember him saying, great display, lads, fantastic display, 100% from me is all. And he looked at Stan Brown and he says, you 110%, this is brilliant. That summed Stan up. But I think all the players were of that mould. Everyone wanted to help each other out. You know, and if someone made a mistake, it was a team mistake. You know, which pleased me one or two occasions. You know. But you know, we were just a great unit. You know.
Of course, you're the goalkeeper for that side. You're back for a certain name. I know you're not picking anybody out, but a name that to this day is legendary in this space. A certain Mr. Cochrane.
Yes, Davy.
Tell us a bit about Davy when he came in.
I think after the end of the second season, where we went from 5th, Innes' first season, to 6th in the league, I think Innes thought we were just missing something, and he got a hold of Davy Cochrane, who was with St Johnstone. I know Davy had a couple of opportunities to go to other teams, but I think Innes and Anna met up with him, and they persuaded him to come to Nairn. And the first time I met Davy was in our pre-season at Cromdale, which was the first time we'd done that, being the league winning season too. You know, it had quite effect. And we met up with Davy for the first time, and we had a wee friendly match against the Badenoch Select team. And Davy played in that, and I immediately thought, ooh, now there's a player. He knows what he's on, you know. Great presence, a tough, an uncompromising player, and I was immediately impressed with Dave. Innes made him captain as well, because he thought that his influence could really galvanise the team.
Yeah.
And who can argue with that?
Well, I think history shows that he made a good choice.
But in saying that, my defence that season in particular, Harry McFadden, who was throughout my career, Harry was there. Harry was fantastic. In fact, Harry even ran the club really for a year when Eric got ill first. And Harry took over training, basically he was a club captain, he became almost a manager, interim manager and all that. We were in dire straits in those days, you know. So Harry was just fantastic, great overlapping fullback. I always likened him to Kieran Tierney, fun enough. Or maybe Kieran Tierney to him.
Well, yes, that's where they get it.
And obviously you had Robin Mitchell, who was next to Davy. Robin and Davy complemented each other. Davy was your hard player, and Robin was a ball player. His long legs saved many.
You got Alan Hansen of the team.
Yes, exactly. And Sammy Forsyth. Sammy, just,
legendary figure.
What a legend. Sammy, just superb. Yeah. Another very underrated player. You could play anywhere as well. Sammy, superb. And then of course Brian Darby, who played that season as a defender as well. I remember saying that we had the best 5 back 4 players in the league. You know, so but no, that was brilliant.
So what we'll do, we'll call the second part to an end, and when we come back, we'll talk a bit about the title winning season itself.
Yeah.
The Nairn County Podcast is brought to you in association with our digital partners, Ziyen Energy. Click on Ziyen.com to find out more.